All right. All right, everyone. Hope you guys are all doing great out there. I want to thank everyone, all my new viewers out there. Today, we reached a milestone. We hit this year over 300 podcasts with our other show, which was Edge on Regenerative Medicine. And we have a new show today. It's called AI Edge Podcast. What we're doing is we're focusing on cutting through the static out there and the status quo of what's going on. We have business owners that have their blood life to their business and to their family, to helping people out. And we have Dr. Savarino, and he's a friend of mine. I'm not just going to say, you know what, he's just some other guy out on the street. He is not, but I want to introduce you to a doctor that is changing people's lives. And I'm not just saying that because he's there on the podcast. There's so many people out there that are struggling with knee pain, hip pain, neck pain. My mother's one of them. And, you know, she went to the doctors last week and they said, you got to get surgery. And I said, no, you don't. She goes, what do you mean? I go, I looked at your chart. You're not bone on bone. We're going to talk about that. There's people out there that are struggling right now, and their insurance companies are telling them, let us cut you up. Let's do surgery. Now, I can say this. Why are they saying this, everyone? They're saying this because they're making a bunch of money. Go ahead, shut me down. I don't care. They're making a whole bunch of money. And there's people like Dr. Savarino. He's going to talk today about stem cells, what stem cells does, how it heals you, how it can regrow. I'm not going to ruin it for you. Anyways, Dr. Savarino, thank you so much for being here. You're a blessing to the community and to what you do. Please tell people a little bit about yourself and why you work with stem cells.
Yeah, so I did a family practice residency, and then I did a sports medicine fellowship, and I've been in regenerative medicine now for about 15 years. I've been doing I started with PRP, or platelet-rich plasma, which a lot of people may have heard of, and then I've been doing bone marrow aspirate, which contains stem cells, for about 12 years now. Yeah, and always just trying to look for the newest and the best to try and keep people out of surgery. If you can't keep 100% of people out of surgery, but you could keep a lot of people out of surgery.
So tell us about stem cells. How has it changed not just your life, but also your practice? And what have you seen that it's done for people that have given up and that are just ready to go to the surgery?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people that come to me, they're people that have been seen by orthopedic surgeons, and they're told they need surgery, and in some cases they do, but in a lot of cases, we could certainly try a lot of things to help prevent that. Stem cell, although technically we're not supposed to say that anymore, but bone marrow, yeah, is a great way to do that, especially in joints, cartilage, meniscus, labrums, all that kind of stuff. It works really good at sometimes completely healing the tissue, sometimes not completely healing the tissue, but it really attacks the chronic inflammation, which is A, the reason why these things hurt, and also B, the reason why these things get worse over time. So, knee arthritis, for instance, we used to think of it as a tire on a car. You just wear that tread down over time. And to an extent, that's true. But the other part of it is that chronic inflammation cycles that and actually starts eating away the cartilage faster. So by stopping that process, you can slow down and even sometimes slightly reverse the process.
Wow. So let's just talk about numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So let's say you have 100 people that use stem cell. What would you say, just give or take, that you would see out of the 100, maybe 20 would be feeling better, you see, in your practice?
No, I mean, I'm also, the key, I think, is you have to do it for the right people, so,
you don't just pick anybody.
Yeah. Like some people, if they have a hip arthritis, let's say, that's so bad that they have no range of motion, well, guess what? You're probably not going to get good results with them. So if you're doing a lot of those, you're just going to have a poor outcome. I would say the people that I do, my regenerative treatments on, probably a good 85 to 90% do really good to excellent. Sometimes they'll need some tune-ups down the road, but right. But yeah, certainly preventing the surgery.
Wow. So when do people actually when do they know that they actually need stem cells? Like, is it normally because they're going in surgery, or are the type of people are you getting more of a mixed type of crowd of people that are asking, hey, I got some pain here, or are they seeing you, or are you kind of like the last resort kind of guy?
Well, I mean, it's actually pretty variable. Some people come to me because they know about it, and the second they get hurt, that's their first line. Some people have tried other things and then come to me for that. Some people were told their only option is surgery, and they were looking for another option. Me personally, I like doing everything stepwise, right? Like, so I'm a traditional sports medicine doctor too. So I'll do steroid every once in a while. For knee arthritis, I'll do the gel injections because they're fairly effective. When they don't work, that's when I'll start talking about the regenerative treatments, I mean, I always, my philosophy is you want to do as little that works to get the patient better.
So what would you say? There's a lot of people that hear the word stem cells, and it's interesting because I'll play video games with my son. This is no joke. I was playing video games the other day, some shooting game, some military game. And I noticed that my character, when he was low on his level, he pulled out a stem cell shot and injected himself, and then his levels went back up. So what I'm saying, I'm starting to see that, people are starting to figure, hey, this is working. What is really a stem cell? If you were to break it down to everybody in third grade, if someone was in third grade, how would you break down stem cells? Because sometimes it's very confusing people. They're saying, hey, you're using the umbilical cords of little kids. Oh, I don't want to use it.
Yeah, so I mean, a stem cell is basically an immature cell that has properties where it could turn into different kinds of cells. So the two main types of stem cells we deal with in regenerative medicine are what are called hematopoietic stem cells and mesenchymal stem cells. Technically, the term we're supposed to be used is medicinal signaling cells now. But, your hematopoietic cells have the potential to turn into your blood components. So your red blood cells, your platelets, your white blood cells, and your MSCs can turn into the tissues, the muscle, the bone, the ligament, the cartilage. We used to think that when you injected these things, that's really what was happening, is they were differentiating in where you put them. That's kind of changed. Really, what we think is going on now is just these cells have so many growth factors and healing factors in them, significantly more than even your platelets. So by putting all those growth and healing factors in there, it's causing that response.
Wow. So what I hear you saying is when people are asking about stem cells, so we are using the umbilical cord.
I do not. So I am, for me, umbilical cord is something that is used for like your own family's umbilical cord, if there's cancer issues, stuff like that. I'm not a big proponent of the Wharton's jelly or the umbilical cord in a bottle. It's not there yet, and there's still a lot of legal debate about it. And honestly, I just find that using your own body, you're not going to have a reaction to yourself, and it's just very safe, So kind of I would say like the spiel that people that do a lot of that stem cell in a bottle stuff give is that your stem cells are old and these are young, healthy stem cells. But if you actually look at the data, there is a great study that actually showed that your stem cells are very viable into the 9th decades of life and beyond. Do you have a little bit less? Sure. Are they maybe a little less active? Sure. But did that make a difference statistically in the outcomes? No. They still had great outcomes. So I think anytime you could use your own body over even somebody else's stuff, I think that's always the better way to go.
So if you're using your own stem cells, I mean, if they're older, you're just putting it back inside you. How do you get those stem cells are they basically they're dormant and then you guys reawake them somehow?
No. So it's really the same philosophy as anything in regenerative medicine. Basically, what we do, like everyone thinks it's rocket science, but what we're doing is we're taking the healers of your body, like your blood or your bone marrow, and we're putting it in places that it can't normally get to, like your joints and your cartilage. Why? Because those tissues are either avascular with no blood supply, or they have very little blood supply and can't get enough healers there. That's why these tissues tend not to heal on their own. If they were very vascularized, we would just heal ourselves and we wouldn't have to worry about any of this.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because, it's interesting. One of the things that caught my eye with stem cells was that, remember that movie, not movie, but there was a podcast with Joe Rogan and Mel
Mhm.
Gibson, and his dad was going to die. And they were like, you know what, just enjoy your time with the doctors. Just say, we could do surgery, but he's not going to make it. He's too old. And, he talked to his doctor about stem cells, and the doctor at the time was like, I don't know. I don't know much about this. And, he had to go fly, I think, to like Nicaragua, some other
Mhm.
country. And he did that. Now his dad lived like another 20 years. It saved his life.
Yep.
I,
Yeah.
it just bothers me. Maybe you can help me answer this. Why is the good stuff being held from the public?
Well, yeah, if you listen to
I feel like it's being muted. We put it up, and then negativity, and then try to debunk it. It's false. But we know people. You do, of course. I know people. I just recommended somebody 2 months ago. Said, hey, I know you some stem cell doctors up in Vancouver, Washington. His hip was going out, going to travel, and then he called me back. That was the best thing I ever did, Mark. Now he's able to walk, run. He's at 85%. He was at 5%.
It's a big difference. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the biggest problem right now is it's just, I think, a little overly regulated. I think part of the regulation is good because I think there's a lot of people that are starting to do it that really don't have the proper training in it. And, they just get told, hey, it's this easy. And it's really not. There's a lot that goes into a lot of it. So I think the focus has to be narrowed more, where people with a certain amount of training should be allowed to do it. But then the regulations at that point should open up more. I mean, if we're being 100% honest with you, I think a big part of it is drug companies, and who's the biggest lobbyist in Washington? It's Big Pharma, so they don't want us to heal you with your own cells. They want you on drugs and all sorts of other stuff, So I think that's the biggest probably hiccup that we have in regenerative medicine right now. But typically, as long as you keep it to my two rules, or autologous, which means it's their body going back into them, and minimal manipulation, which means we can concentrate it, kind of spin it down, but you're not allowed to add anything or culture it. That's where these places are kind of getting into trouble, that are doing that when they're not supposed to. There's a lot of cool studies going on, which hopefully will open up some of these doors. They're testing, quadriplegics with IV stem cells. They're testing Parkinson's disease with stem cells. They're in the process of trying to grow kidneys just using stem cells and 3D printing, so there's a lot of really cool stuff. It's probably going to be years before those applications actually take effect, but, at least it's kind of opening up some doors.
Wow. Well, do you have like a good story on someone that maybe was going to get surgery and they've just kind of given up, and they went to you, and maybe just kind of tell how that story went, and, if you got a good success story?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that is kind of almost every story. It's like that. I went to go see somebody, they told me that there was the only option was surgery, and, whether it's a rotator cuff tear or whether it's arthritis or labral tears. Actually, I have a great story. So I have a patient. She was an elite level CrossFitter. Okay. And she had a labral tear in her shoulder, and she was told that she needed surgery, and she literally hadn't been able to do like overhead military pressing for well over a year. Looked at her MRI. I said, I think we could treat this without surgery. So we wound up doing bone marrow and PRP. And for most people, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks to even begin to notice any change, but probably because she's young and healthy and she was as active as she was. At 8 weeks, she sends the practice an Instagram video of her military pressing like 150 pounds. And she's like, I think these are working, So it was pretty funny. It was a great story. And actually, because of that, we get a lot of CrossFitters. We get a lot of, gym people that, just haven't been able to do things for a while and are back to doing them.
I like that. Now, if you could remind me, what we'll do is if you can send me that video so we can have that as the commercial that will pop up right away, it would be perfect, Yeah,
I have to find it. It was probably like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
or something like that. I'll even think, there's so many videos out there now of people being healed by stem cell. It's interesting, as much as they're regulating, big pharma is regulating stem cells and PRP and all these things that work. I wish they would regulate our food, because the food is what's going on, really. What's causing a lot of early aging, early breaking down of the body. And I was actually impressed. The news yesterday, they're starting to boycott Frosted Flakes. And what's very interesting about that is somebody got a bright idea and realized, they looked at the box and all the stuff, the chemicals, and not realizing that's in every single cereal that's out there.
Yep.
It's every single piece of bread that we eat, unless if it's Ezekiel bread.
Yep.
And it's interesting how it's like, what? Hello?
Yep. Unless you're making it or growing it yourself, you have no idea. Even things that are organic in a supermarket, I don't trust that they're organic, And even these unprocessed foods, just your fruits and vegetables now, the soil is sick. It doesn't have the nutrients that it used to have before. Plus, they're using pesticides and hormones and GMO and all this other stuff. That's why autoimmune disease is skyrocketing now, because I think it's very much an environmental and food thing.
No, I agree with you 100%. It's funny, like whenever I go hang out with my friends, they want to go out to eat. I'm like, you go ahead. I bring my own food with me. I make my own food, everything. I'm not going to eat that, and I will be honest. I cheat once a month, but I'm not out there eating that stuff, because I notice that my body, it literally just wants to go into a comatose state and fall asleep. Yep. It's interesting.
And the best part is it's like masked stuff that people think are healthy, right? Like, so these Beyond Burgers, for instance, right? Look at the back of that. It's 90% chemicals, right? It's, yeah, sure, there's no meat in it, but there's a whole bunch of other really, really bad stuff in there, where if you get a regular hamburger, the ingredient is beef. You know what I mean? Like, it's, now that beef obviously was pumped full of hormones and all sorts of other stuff, but yeah, it's a different.
I'm seeing, even going to the store, because I shop I'm always doing my own shopping, and I'm starting to see that there's being a little turn in the tide. Even in the foods, like I went and bought some turkey last night, and right away, not pumped with hormones, no MSG. Like, they're realizing that people aren't buying as much. They're getting smart.
Yeah, people are
even with the chips. Even with the chips,
Yep.
The Dorito doesn't taste like a Dorito, but it tastes like a Frito. But the bottom line, it's healthier. But I feel like the food program, there's the food industry is starting to catch on, because the people are speaking because of their pockets, So in a way, we kind of do control it. We just we need to catch on with the wave, with what's going on. So with stem cells, what are the pros, and not just give me 2 pros and 2 negatives?
So, the biggest pro is it's your body healing itself. There's no medicine involved. There's no surgery involved. It really works for a lot of people. Really, there is no negative other than the fact that it's typically not covered by insurance. That's the bugaboo for some people, because financially they just can't swing it, So we try and have a lot of different options, even in the regenerative world. So for, a little bit more cost effective versus the stem cell, which are our higher price ticket,
But that people can do, let's say I come in your office and I don't have the money to get the stem cells, at least not yet. My opinion, I believe if there's a will, there's a way. So that's the way my brain thinks, You'll go out and spend $300 on a meal, but we won't go take care of ourselves. No pun intended to everybody out there who understands this. But, let's just say I really couldn't afford it, right? And what are some other awesome options that you provide at your company?
Yeah, so platelet-rich plasma is a much more cost-effective solution for some people. It's basically just drawing your blood and taking your platelets and concentrating them. It's very effective. There's good studies that show that it's more effective than steroid or hyaluronic acid injections for knee arthritis. Works really, really good for tendons and ligaments and muscles. With the cartilage and with the nerves, I would say that it's It's sometimes very successful, but sometimes it takes multiple to get there. And then you're kind of getting close to what the stem cell would cost anyway, but certainly for a lot of people worth a try, kind of an in-between that I think is really cool is we have something called PRP with Super Shot. Okay. What Super Shot is it's, after we get your platelets concentrated, we put the PRP to the side for a second, and then we take a little bit of that leftover plasma, because that leftover plasma has some really, really good stuff in it. It just doesn't come out of the normal process. So we add the Super Shot to that, and what it does is it acts as a filter that just allows smaller blood particles to get filtered out. We spin it one more time. What it concentrates on the bottom is something called ECVs, or extracellular vesicles, one of which some people have heard of exosomes, but there's like billions of different kinds of ECVs in there. And then we draw off the rest of the plasma, we add the PRP to that, and then we shake it all around. And basically what it does is those ECVs are messenger type cells that just allow the platelets to communicate better with each other and better with all those cells they're trying to call in to bring the healing process. So for lack of a better term, it's like PRP on steroids. It has a little oomph to it, but so we have lots of options depending on budget, even a lower budget is prolotherapy, where you're basically using D5W sugar water to create an irritation to bring more blood flow to the area. So it's kind of like, it's similar to PRP in that it causes that inflammatory response, but obviously it doesn't have all those growth factors. But for some people, it could be very effective.
Wow. So it's called prolotherapy, correct?
Yeah, Prolo's been around for a very long time. Yeah, it's actually probably the original regenerative medicine.
Okay. So did that come in the 70s?
It's been, probably fairly mainstream for at least 25 plus years, if not more. Yeah.
Wow. And have you seen that work? I mean, on some people where it just works great, I found. And then
yeah, it works a lot. Again, the issue I would say with Prolo for a lot of people is it takes usually quite a few treatments to kind of get the optimal result. So, rather than a PRP or a stem cell, well, maybe we'll just crank that joint at once or maybe twice. For Prolo, every time you do it, you're going to have that inflammatory reaction, and you might do it 5-6 plus times, so it's not the most fun in the world, but for some people, it could be.
Do they normally do that once a week?
It depends. So, again, nobody showed me any real good study that shows a great protocol, for PRP or stem cells. So what do? I see how the patient responds. I'm not a big fan of saying you have to do it this often. Yeah. There are some doctors you'll go to, they're going to tell you need 3 PRPs 2 weeks apart. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know if the first one's working for 6 to 8 weeks most of the time. So why am I going to do it 3 times when maybe one will do the trick,
I like the way you think. So so what I'm hearing you saying is you're working with their body because everybody's body is different.
Everybody. Yep. And then, especially when you're dealing with regenerative medicine, because when you're dealing with just a medication or something like that, at least that medication is consistent. When you're dealing with regenerative medicine, their platelets are different than the next person's platelets, and their healing response is different too. So, you're always, if you treat it out like cookie cutter, you're just not going to have good outcomes.
I like that. Wow, that's awesome. So to everybody out there, if you were to break it down in simple forms, stem cell basically goes to the area that has inflammation. It attacks it, and it starts to regenerate it with new cells. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah. To a point, I would say there's a lot of false advertising too, if you ever see a picture of where someone's saying, here's the bone on bone knee, and then here's the picture after stem cells, and it has that cartilage back, that doesn't happen, but can you put a little tread back on the tire? In some cases, yeah. And even if you don't, you could still get great results for a long period of time, because again, you can walk around with the bone-on-bone knee and have absolutely no pain if there's no inflammation there. Inflammation is what causes the pain. So if you can get rid of that, you will get rid of the pain and give that person more function.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's interesting. I saw recently on Facebook, we see a lot of interesting stuff on Facebook, but what's interesting, I'm seeing that they're doing this new thing where supposedly that you can buy the stem cell shot and inject yourself. What the heck? I saw that last week. I'm like, this has got to be a scam. And why isn't this flagged? on
Well,
that.
it has to be. But yeah, I mean, people get away with stuff all the time, even though it's been 3 years since the FDA sent out the warning about like the umbilical products and all that stuff. There's still a lot of people that do them. I certainly wouldn't buy anything online and inject it into myself, period, much less something that's claiming to be a stem cell.
I know. Well, I hate to say it, but half the world kind of pretty much already did that. But that's another episode. Yeah, you know what? I just want to say again, thank you for being here on the show. And everybody, I want to tell you guys something. You want to go to regenerateenj.com. Regenerateenj.com is the place. And what part in New Jersey are you located, and what are the surrounding cities that are you currently, helping out?
Yeah, so we're right on the Jersey Shore in central Jersey. We're literally halfway between New York City and Philadelphia. It's about an hour shot to each. Yeah, so, two big metropolitan areas pretty close by. And about an hour from Newark, too. So, yeah, that's right where we are.
Are you close to the actual Jersey Shore?
Yep.
Wow, have you ever checked it out?
Oh, I mean, technically, I live on the Jersey Shore. Yes, the Jersey Shore's huge. Yeah. I mean, it's actually the biggest, the state with the most beach property in the country.
Yeah, man, I got to go down there and visit you, man. Maybe we'll do a live Facebook. Hey, this really works. But again, thank you so much. And I always like to tell my doctors, thank you for what you do for serving people. And I love what you guys do because you guys really want to help people. And that's an art that has been lost.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, everyone, when they graduated medical school, they took the oath that says do no harm. And unfortunately, some people don't listen to it, Yeah.
Well, again, keep doing what you're doing and keep saving lives and people out there that are retired that really want to retire, and then you unretire them by fixing them up. I love that. And again, thank you so much for being here, and God bless you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.